Hi, and welcome to Chapter 9, the Location Plan. You're probably familiar with the brick and mortar store. This is the traditional physical store from which businesses have historically operated. The location of the brick and mortar startup is incredibly important. This is because of the high cost associated with constructing a physical location. Also, if you put your business in a poor location, it will inevitably affect the success of your company. And finally, you want to place your business someplace that is amenable to the type of business you're starting. If you decide to start a clothing outlet and you're located in the industrial part of town, obviously this isn't going to be successful for you. You have a few different location options for a startup. There's the traditional brick and mortar store that I just discussed. You can operate out of your home depending on the type of business, and you can have a web-based startup. There are 5 key factors that determine a good business location. The features affecting the desirability of a business location are personal preference, environmental conditions, resource availability, customer accessibility, and site availability and cost. Their relative importance depends on the nature of the business. Since customers usually visit retail stores, customer accessibility is generally the most important factor to a retailer. As I just stated, one of the key factors in selecting a good location includes customer accessibility. You want your business in a high traffic location where it's very convenient to customers. You want to be able to access your target customers, your niche market, and you want to try to avoid high shipping costs. When looking at business environment factors, you need to look at the presence of established competitors. You need to look at regulations, legal requirements, and restrictions in that area, and also look at the tax structure, exemptions, and incentives for being located there. Another important factor to consider if you're building a brick and mortar store is the availability of resources. There are 3 major resource factors to consider: the closeness of raw materials, the suitability of the supply of labor, and the availability of adequate and reliable transportation. These would all be important to a residential home furniture manufacturer, for example, especially one which competes primarily on price. For example, the profit-to-weight ratio of the product is low, so transporting raw materials over long distances may be cost prohibitive. This explains the grouping of furniture manufacturers near major supplies of hardwood timber in the southeastern United States. And while the skill level of local labor may not be as critical as the closeness of raw materials, the cost of that labor is certainly an important factor. Finally, transportation is essential to the operation of a furniture manufacturer, so this is also an important factor for the location of the firm. Another factor that plays an important role in where an entrepreneur places their business is their personal preference, familiarity with their home community environment. Entrepreneurs also may like the support that they would get by their local community, who they know. They would also go with personal preference because of a desire for a particular lifestyle and the contribution they can make to their community. Now let's look at site availability and costs. It can sometimes be difficult locating a good site and deciding whether to buy or lease. A business incubator may be a good choice for a new business because it provides a shared space, shared services, and management assistance. While many entrepreneurs decide to buy a location, this can be very expensive and it requires a commitment. It can be a risky endeavor. Many entrepreneurs, especially those new to a particular business, see the advantages of leasing because this avoids a large outlay of cash. It also allows the owners to postpone committing to the site before the business becomes a success. Another factor to think about when selecting a location is look at the neighbor mix. Who are your neighbors? If you plan to sell cement, you don't want to be located in a retail area next to Barnes & Noble or clothing stores. You also want to look at security and safety. How safe is the neighborhood that you plan to do business in? If you're getting a lease for an incredible deal, there may be a reason for it. You also need to look at what kinds of services are offered in that area. For example, it may be important for your business to have the trash picked up. And while you're doing your research, you might as well go ahead and check out what was the past tenant's fate. What happened to them? Did they not make it in that business because of the location? Many business owners choose their hometown, and this can sometimes be a great decision. The fact that it is a hometown may provide certain advantages and that the owner knows the community and the cultural background of the people. It may also be simpler to establish credit and banking connections in one's hometown. It's reasonable for the owner to consider personal preference in locating a business because he or she may simply be happier in one part of the country than another. However, personal considerations of this type should be weighed against any economic disadvantages that a favorite location might have. You should also consider the life cycle stage of the area. Is the site in the embryonic, mature, or declining stage? You've reached the end of Part 1 for Chapter 9. Please proceed to Part 2.